Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our EV Financial Incentives Clinic. This is our EV 101 class. And here we go. Today's presenters are myself. I'm Joanna. I'm the Beneficial Electrification Associate at Acterra. My manager is Irvin, but today my Zoom master is Naomi, who's our project associate at Acterra as well. And a big thanks to Oscar for language interpretation. So this presentation is set up by Acterra. Our mission as a trusted nonprofit is to bring people together to create local and equitable solutions for a healthy planet. Our focus is addressing climate change while advancing equity. And we serve all 9 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. I would also like to say thank you to Electrify America for helping by sponsoring this event. So for tonight, our objective is to inspire and inform residents on tight budgets to afford electric vehicles. So for tonight, our agenda will start with the benefits of driving EVs. Then we'll talk a little bit about EV charging. Then I'll go into the financial incentive programs to help save money and reduce the cost of an electric vehicle. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. So starting with the plug-in hybrid, this kind of car has both a gas and electric engine. It can take a level 1 or level 2 charger. It has about 20 to 40 miles of electric range and then about 300 miles of gas range. Depends on the vehicle, but that's just an average. And we'll also be talking about the 100% battery electric car. As you can see, it just has a giant battery. There's more space to put in a large battery. So now it has a 250 to 300 mile range. Again, depending on the car. Some cars these days are going up to 400, 500 mile ranges. These are charged exclusively with a level 2 charger, as well as DC fast charging, which can give you up to 80% charge in 20 minutes. So now we know a little bit about EVs, and now what are the benefits to driving one? The one that comes to mind first for a lot of people is cleaner air and healthier communities. These are just some of the things that come out of the exhaust of a gas car, and they're really bad for you and your health, as well as the environment. And so limiting these things in our air will be helpful for everybody. Another benefit to driving an EV is its environmental effects. Driving an EV saves about 7,500 pounds of CO2 from entering the atmosphere per year. So that's almost 100 round trip commutes from San Francisco to San Jose. So that's pretty nice. That's about 30 miles. That's the average commute time for someone who lives in the Bay Area. Another reason that EVs are better are because of their safe and sustainable climate, as I mentioned. This is a chart of how emissions are split up in California. And as you can see, almost 40% of our emissions comes from transportation. In the Bay Area, that's closer to 60%. So switching to an EV is a great opportunity to limit the emissions from the Bay Area and from California. And some of the biggest reasons for people to change to an EV is its cost savings. So by charging instead of refueling, you can save between $800 to $1,000 in savings per year. This is another graph that I like to use to explain how, despite the high upfront cost for an electric vehicle, or I'm sorry, for an electric vehicle, it is still overall cheaper because of cheaper charging, there's less maintenance required in an electric vehicle, and it has a pretty good resale value. This is another graph that I like to use to show between different electric vehicles how your savings change over time of ownership. So in your first year, since the car was expensive, you're making less savings, but as time goes on, you'll be making quite a lot in savings. And this is the average compared to all the other EVs you could get. As I mentioned, less maintenance is required for an electric vehicle. You do not have to use any oil changes or oil checks, no smog checks, no radiator, no spark plugs. There's over 10 times fewer moving parts in an electric vehicle, which means that there's fewer things to go wrong. Basically, for EVs, the main things you would have to worry about are updating your battery, your tires, and your windshield wiper fluid. Lastly, EVs are awesome because they are fun, safe, and easier to charge. They are quiet and smooth because there's no gas being used. They're easy to charge overnight in your house. They can accelerate very quickly, and they're just a great car to have. As I mentioned, one thing you would have to worry about is your health of the battery. And there's some confusion about battery health out there, so I just wanted to clarify some things. The degradation rate of a battery is about 1.8% per year as of 2025. It's higher for older vehicles, but as technology has improved, the degradation rate has decreased. As you can see from this graph, you'll see that at the beginning, there is an initial drop and then a moderate decline. And that would be very similar for a gas vehicle, a moderate decline. So because of liquid cooling systems in EVs, it will improve battery longevity instead of passive air cooling systems that would be in a plug-in hybrid vehicle. And just to get an idea of the difference in technology, between the 2015 Tesla Model S is a degradation rate of 2.3% versus the Nissan Leaf at 4.2%. Furthermore, for battery longevity, the average EV battery lasts 15 to 20 years, and it can be more depending on charging practices. Also worth noting, that's pretty similar to a gas-powered vehicle, so don't let battery health be the defining factor for why you don't get an electric vehicle. People are also concerned about the environmental effects of recycling these batteries, and fortunately, 95% of batteries can be recycled now. Some tips is to avoid charging all the way to 100%, as well as avoid dropping it down to 0%. Keeping it between 20 to 80% will be what's best for your battery in the long term. Avoid overheating. Not so much of a problem in the Bay Area, but leaving it in the garage if you have one is nice. And limit fast charging. I talked about that a little bit earlier. It's a great way for if you're on a road trip or if you're running low and in your emergency to go to your Walmart or Target and find their local fast charging. But because it is adding so much battery life at once, it can really wear your battery down over time. So now we can get into charging a little bit. So with the level 1 charger, that's 120 volts, and it will give you about 45 miles overnight. So this is a perfect charger for those who have a plug-in hybrid vehicle. And plus, you can use a regular outlet, and you don't have to worry about any potential electric panel upgrades. With a level 2 charger, that's 240 volts. Potentially, you would have to worry about an electric panel upgrade, and that could give you 25 miles per hour. And then finally, as I mentioned, the DC fast charge over 480 volts and 130 to 200 miles per hour is given. And that does depend on how many other folks are using the charging station in that area, what your charge was initially at when you plugged it in, things like that. Another thing to keep in mind is there might be different outlet plugs for different charging stations. So keep that in mind about what your plug looks like. You might have to invest in an adapter if you want to use like a Tesla charging system. So all battery EVs and plug-in hybrids are capable of using the level 2 charging system. And as I mentioned with the charging speed, your vehicle will affect charging speed, the type of charging system you use, and the outside temperature. Too hot or too cold will potentially affect the rate of charge. As I mentioned with those charging systems, you could update your electric panel, but for some folks who live in a home that they're renting or in an apartment, we have other options as well. There are smart outlets like Plugzio and Go Power EV that you can plug in and connect your phone to it so that it will charge you appropriately in your utility bill. It will include that charge. There's also a concierge service. The one that we recommend is Spark Charge. They can come out and charge your vehicle for you. And then finally, as I was mentioning to Nikki, we have public sharing apps. Uh, a good one is PlugShare. This is a great one. This is also just a great example about how much infrastructure there is in the Bay Area. Google Maps also has a great function to check which EV charging stations are around. And as new EVs come out, they also will often have an EV charging finder in the car. So this is still a good savings opportunity, but in the Bay Area, electricity is also quite expensive. So to make it as cheap as possible, you should charge your EV during a low price off-peak time. The ideal charging time is from midnight to 4 p.m. Most people, when they come home from work, are starting up all their electricity things and things like that. And so that puts a lot of pressure on the grid and it becomes more expensive to use electricity. So charging your vehicle and in fact using other electric sources in the off time will be cheaper for you in the long run. So early morning and late evenings. Oh, plus, I'm sorry, I totally forgot to mention, everyone should be on mute right now. At the end, when we do Q&A, I'll unmute people, or I'm sorry, raise your hand and I can unmute you. Uh, Another plan that I wanted to talk about, PG&E has an EV electric rate plan. It's pretty similar. Here's the high price peak from 4 to 9. There's also a partial peak from 4 to midnight. Same idea. People are using the electricity throughout that whole time. So it's worse from 4 to 9, less worse from 4 to 12. You will be saving the most money by using all of your electric supplies from about midnight to 4 p.m. And you would have to switch to this plan. Most people are on the default plan. Oops, will it go? Most people are on this plan, and I would suggest changing to this plan. So this might look kind of scary, but I just wanted to give you an idea about just how many electric vehicles are out there on the market right now. Plug in America is a great resource that you can use to see what cars are on the market, as well as their current prices, their mileages, things like that. And this is just to give you an idea. So I just wanted to give some basics of the more popular EVs that we see in our work. Hondas are great. The Honda Prologue is great. It has regenerative braking, as do many other EVs. Tesla is the most popular EV in the US, and there are many Tesla chargers around, which really helps. Ford has the reliable F-150 Lightning, which is the truck, if you're interested in a truck EV. Lucid has the largest range at almost 600 miles, but it is the most expensive. Polestar is also another great EV that I wanted to mention. Here are just some other examples. The Kia can go from 10 to 80% using the DC fast charger. VWs are good. Hyundai. Rivian has good off-road capabilities and also has a large truck version. And Nissan has also reliable EVs and currently has the cheapest MSRP. So we talked about EVs, we've talked about its benefits, we talked about charging, and now it's time to get into credits and rebates. Starting with credits and rebates for new EV purchases, I'll talk about the federal new EV tax credit, the Driving Clean Assistance Program, the SVCE rebate, and the SJCE EV Instant Rebate. So, starting with the new clean vehicle credit, this is the big one, guys. This one you can get $7,500 in tax credits, and with an income limitation of $150,000 for a single filer, most people can qualify for it. Unfortunately, uh it is ending on September 30th. So kind of soon, but if you apply now, it should be able to work retroactively. Some vehicle requirements is that it must undergo final assembly in America. So Kia, for example, would not be eligible. It must be under 14,000 pounds. And this is for purchasing instead of leasing. And the MSRP must not exceed $80,000 for vans, SUVs, and pickup trucks, and it must not exceed 55,000 for other vehicles. So I mentioned the income qualifying requirements. A lot of people like to lease it if they are above those income requirements. And as well, if you lease it, it does not have to undergo final assembly in America. So a lot of people like to lease the car so that they have more options. Here are some examples of qualifying EVs for the $7,500, like the Ford F-150 Lightning. Chevy Bolts are really great. The Honda Prologue is great. And then for hybrid EVs, you can get half of the credit. And some good cars are the Ford Escape, the Nissan Leaf that I mentioned, and certain Jeep brands. So for people who live in San Jose, you are under San Jose Clean Energy and you can apply for the EV Instant Rebate. This is a $4,000 rebate. The vehicle must not exceed $60,000 in price. You can buy or lease, and you must have a residential service address within San Jose. And I've listed the eligible vehicles in this link, which you'll get at the end. For those who live in Santa Clara County, not including San Jose, you can sign up with Silicon Valley Clean Energy and use their rebate, which is $2,000. The requirements are it can be any kind of EV, electric or plug-in. You must be an SVCE customer. There are certain income qualifications, and this is stackable with other incentives. So we'll look at a cool calculation after this. To obtain this rebate, you can either be at or below 80% of the area median income, and I've attached some examples here. Or you can already be enrolled in an assistance program. And here are some California assistance programs. For using the rebate, you can either apply in advance and then receive your rebate immediately at the time of purchase when you go to the dealership to purchase your car. Or you can apply for the rebate after you've purchased this car if you've done it since October 1st, 2024. So hopefully that applies for many of you. And if you do that, you'll just receive a check in the mail within 4 weeks. Next is the Driving Clean Assistance Program, um, also known as Clean Cars for All. That is the program that's currently working. You can get up to $7,500 in rebates, as well as an additional $2,000 for charging infrastructure. So you can either use the Financing Assistance Program, which is not stackable with other car programs, but EVs and plugins do qualify. Or you can choose fair financing, which is financing of up to $45,000 at an interest rate less than 8% APR. And of course, these are also income qualifying. This is the table to give an example of the different incomes. You must also be a California resident, and as I mentioned, cannot have participated in any CARB programs. So this is an example of stacking rebates for a new EV. So for the new 2025 Volkswagen ID4, the initial price is about $40,000. And if you use the clean tax credit as well as the driving clean assistance program, you can save almost half off. If you were using the San Jose or Silicon Valley rebate, that would be more than half off. And with that, I'll move on to credits and rebates for used EV electric vehicles. The federal tax credit also applies for used vehicles, as well as the Silicon Valley Clean Energy rebate, as well as the San Jose rebate. And in addition, I'll talk about the PG&E used EV rebate. Before I get into the rebates, I just wanted to go over some basic tips of what to look out for when you're considering a used vehicle. So obviously, check the vehicle condition. The most important thing in this case is the battery condition, as well as checking tires, brakes, and overall general condition. Checking the mileage to see how much effort the battery has gone through. If it's a new battery, that's essentially a new car. Also, check the battery warranty. Most come with a battery warranty of 8 to 10 years, and some warranties may only cover battery failure and not capacity degradation. So, as I mentioned, with the new vehicle tax credit, there's also the used vehicle tax credit. This one is $4,000 or 30% off, whichever is lower. The EV must be 2 model years old, and the sales price cannot exceed more than $25,000. And below are the income limitations. As mentioned, this program will be ending September 30th. As I mentioned, this is the San Jose Clean Energy EV Instant Rebate, $2,000, $60,000 price cap, and I've attached a new list of eligible vehicles. Oh, and something worth mentioning, this one applies to all electric vehicles only, not plug-in hybrids. The Silicon Valley Clean Energy rebate I mentioned, this one is electric or plug-in, buying or leasing, and you must be a Silicon Valley Clean Energy customer. You join as in addition to your PG&E account. If you are interested in that, I can talk about that more later. Same rules for obtaining and using the rebate as well. For the PG&E used EV rebate, the standard option is $1,000 off. And for low income folks, there's a rebate plus option for $4,000. They also have a charging rebate. The standard option would be to cover half of PG&E pre-approved equipment, and the rebate plus option would cover it 100%. And here's another example for a used EV using the 2024 Chevy Equinox with a 300-mile range, using the used clean tax credit, the PG&E credit, and the San Jose or Silicon Valley credit. you have taken off $10,000. So another great way to stack these and make vehicles affordable for everyone. A couple more charging incentives. There's the alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit. That's either $1,000 off or 30% coverage. And anyone can apply to this one. And as I mentioned, the PG&E residential charging. You can either get 50% off or 100% off, depending on your income. One more kind of program I wanted to talk about are scrap and replace programs. There are these programs where you can turn in your high emission gas vehicle in exchange for a higher rebate. So, as I mentioned with the Driving Clean Assistance Program, or I'm sorry, the Clean Cars for All program, there's the $7,500 off if you don't have a used vehicle to turn in. If you do, you can get up to $10,000 off or $12,000 off if you're an income qualifying resident. For the Consumer Assistance Program, you can get $1,350 for non-income qualification and up to $2,000 if you are income qualified. Also, with the Consumer Assistance Program, it must fail its most recent smog check. I won't go through all of this, but this is some general criteria for the scrapped car and the replacement car. For the scrapped car, it must be a gas car. It must pass a functionality test. It must be model year 2007 or older. And yeah, for a replacement car, it can be purchased or leased in California through an authorized dealership, which you can find online. It can be new or used and must not exceed $45,000. If you are interested in a new vehicle, it must be on the CARB list of eligible vehicles. And used vehicles must be 8 years or newer with 75,000 or less original miles. Finally, I want to talk about e-mobility options. If you're interested in an electric bicycle or scooter, Peninsula Clean Energy is the group for those in San Mateo County, and they can give you $1,000 in exchange for an e-mobility option. And the Clean Cars for All program that I mentioned, if you want, you can use that $7,500 for a Clipper card of that value to use for public transit or in exchange for e-mobility, like an electric bike or scooter. So I'm nearing the end of my presentation. I threw a lot of information at you, and if you're still confused after all of this, that is totally valid. Acterra will offer one-on-one EV consultations in which will help you identify applicable rebate programs and create a personalized action plan with steps to receive your incentives. To request a consultation, you can go to this link that I've attached to the slides, or when I send out the slides afterwards, feel free to respond to my email and I can set you up. And so with that, I'm at the end. Thank you so much for sticking around. I know that was a lot of information. If you have additional questions, you can call either of these numbers. You can email me or my manager, Irvin. or go to our website at acterra.org. There's lots more information there as well. And with that, we can go into questions. So, as I mentioned, if you would like to talk, you should raise your hand and I can unmute you. Good. Okay. Naomi answered a good question from Sharon about anything for Alameda County. Alameda Municipal Power has some stuff, as well as Ava Community Energy is another great organization that helps folks in the East Bay. And there's no raised hands, so I think I'll just end the presentation now. Again, thank you so much to everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. Again, if you need any more questions answered, please feel free to reach out to us. And have a good rest of your night.